All right, so move on to the next segment. I'll be sharing my thoughts on Zuffa Boxing. My personal thoughts on Zuffa Boxing after they made their debut early in 2026. How is the platform looking? Do I believe they have a chance to hang around long in the sport of boxing? These are my overall thoughts on Zuffa Boxing after their first four events that took place in 2026. Now, I'm a big fan of boxing. Don't get me wrong. I'm a diehard boxing fan. I'm not one of these casuals that just tune in for the big money fights. I'm a diehard boxing fan. But as a boxing fan, Zuffa is a good alternative for boxing fans that want to keep watching the sport and just want to have a different alternative. But I'm not sure that Zuffa Boxing can hang around long in the sport. I don't know if they're going to hang around for the next 3 to 5 years or so on. I don't know if this future is really as bright as Dana White thinks it is for Zuffa Boxing moving forward. Now, politics could be the huge downfall for Zuffa Boxing because early on in the debut of Zuffa Boxing in 2026, Dana White has already said he has no aspirations to work with the other top promoters in boxing. I think that's one of the first red flags. He's not interested in working with Matchroom Boxing, Eddie Hearns. We know they have bad beef with each other. They're talking about boxing each other as we speak. He doesn't want to work with the PBC and Al Heyman. He doesn't want to work with Top Rank and Bob Arum. Like, he does not want to work with any other promoters other than Turki Al-Sheikh right now, currently in the sport of boxing. And Dana White also, another red flag is Dana White does not want to also recognize or respect the other four sanctioned bodies in the sport of boxing, that being the WBC, the WBA, the WBO, and the IBF. That is a huge red flag because you're going to have to work with other promoters if you want your fighters to be true world champions, not just hold a Zuffa Boxing Championship League title. That doesn't mean anything, or it's not recognized as a true world title to other outside fighters that are not a part of Zuffa Boxing. And I think that's going to be a huge red flag moving forward because Jaya Opetaia just competed, one of the best cruiserweights in the world, just competed last week for the Zuffa Championship. He just became the inaugural Zuffa Cruiserweight Champion in Zuffa Boxing. And because he fought for the Zuffa Championship, he was stripped of the IBF Championship. The IBF did not want him to fight for the Zuffa Championship. They were not going to recognize that as a sanctioned fight, a sanctioned championship fight, and they stripped Jaya Opetaia as the IBF champion. So Jaya has aspirations to become undisputed at the cruiserweight division. How are you going to do that if Zuffa Boxing doesn't recognize the other sanctioned bodies? How are you going to do that when the other sanctioned bodies aren't willing to work with Zuffa Boxing? How is he going to eventually negotiate for a unification cruiserweight championship fight between the winner of David Benavidez and Gilberto Ramirez in May on Cinco de Mayo weekend? That's not going to work, and he's just going to be stuck fighting no-namers for the Zuffa Cruiserweight Championship. And that's why I think it's not going to work. How will Dana White and other Zuffa Boxing executives attract the other top-tier names to Zuffa Boxing, knowing that fighters like Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, David Benavidez, some top-tier names that care about their legacy in the championships, will have no aspirations to fight for Zuffa Boxing if he's not going to recognize the other four sanctioned bodies, or they cannot become undisputed like all these other fighters want to do, and their aspirations to be great in the sport of boxing. So they care about titles and the legacy. Zuffa Boxing just feels like I'm kicking a random guy's ass and I'm taking a name and becoming a world champion in a boxing league. Some of these top tier names are not going to want that. And I give Dana White for at least trying early on in 2026. I mean, they've had 4 shows so far. He has signed guys like Jaya Opetaia, Andy Ruiz, former heavyweight champion, and Conor Benn so far. And I also give him credit as well for signing a boxing legend like Andre Ward to do commentary, Max Kellerman, who is doing commentary as well. Very knowledgeable guys to the sport of boxing. But Zuffa Boxing has already had 4 shows so far. Like I said, and I give you credit for promoting 4 shows, or somewhat promoting, but I feel like they need to do a better job promoting the shows because, yes, Dana White is the CEO, the president of UFC. He doesn't want Zuffa Boxing and UFC to counteract with each other, so he makes the shows take place on Friday nights or Sunday nights so they don't interfere with the UFC schedule. But you also already have a network deal with Paramount Plus. Not like Zuffa Boxing is taking place on TV, Hulu. Like, it's not taking place on something that nobody watches. It's actually being streamed on Paramount Plus, just like he has that deal with the UFC right now. But I feel like he has to do a better job promoting, because if I wasn't a diehard boxing fan and if I was a casual trying to pick up the concepts of what Zuffa boxing is all about, I'm not going to be able to follow it if there's no top tier names that, as a casual, will attract me to watch Zuffa boxing. Like, if I'm a casual, I'm gonna tune in to watch a Gervonta Davis fight because he's a knockout artist. Zuffa doesn't have a fighter like that yet. Or if you're a fan of the sweet science of boxing and defensive boxing styles like Shakur Stevenson, as a casual, Zuffa boxing does not have that to offer right now. So they're having all their shows taking place in the UFC Apex right now. If anybody doesn't know where the UFC Apex is, that's in Las Vegas, Nevada. The UFC Apex probably holds 250 to 500 people max in terms of attendance. So you're having a $1 billion co-founder in Dana White not really trying to push Zuffa boxing to the edge, putting them in maybe smaller cities, smaller venues to make Zuffa boxing more global. You're just having a stream on Paramount Plus thinking that's enough. You're having it take place at the UFC Apex. You're thinking that's enough. I don't think that's enough so far. So I think, to close out this segment, I think Dana White needs to start thinking of ideas to bring in more casuals to Zuffa boxing, like I just said. Make more shows worldwide. Try to make a big of an effort to sign bigger stars, the biggest fish out there in the sport of boxing, and try to work with sanctioned bodies. Because if you don't do those following things, you just want to make a star out of yourself, like a Callum Smith. I don't think he's a star, and that's what they built the whole entire first Zuffa boxing card around, which is Callum Smith, a 10-round fight where he didn't get a knockout. He didn't look like the next big thing, the next big fighter from Ireland. I think they need to do more, and I think they need to attract bigger stars. Signing Conor Benn to a one-fight deal that's worth $15 million to fight Regis Progress on a Tyson Fury undercard, that might be a win for you guys, but what is Conor Benn going to do next? Knowing that he can't get a WBC title shot, knowing he's the #1 contender for Ryan Garcia's welterweight championship, I think those things could honestly sway away fighters from signing with Zuffa boxing. And if you're not going to work with the sanctioned bodies, I mean, I know the WBO is the newest sanctioned body to the party. They came in the early 2000s, I believe. But other sanctioned bodies that have stood the test of time in boxing, like the WBC, the IBF, and the WBA, if you're not willing to work with those sanctioned bodies, how is this going to work for you trying to last in the sport? And it's not a league like the UFC where you separate yourself from the PFL or other ones and just become this dominant force. It's not going to work in boxing. So I think he has a lot of work to do if you're going to hang around with Matchroom Boxing Eddie Hearns, who is arguably the best promoter in boxing other than Turkey Al-Sheikh, the PBC and Al Heyman, Golden Boy Promotions and Oscar De La Hoya, Top Rank and Bob Arum. Like, you're going to have to do a lot of work if you're going to want to hang with these guys. But I give them credit for the start. But those are the things I would critique and try to work on if I'm Zuffa boxing and Dana White. But those are my thoughts on Zuffa boxing thus far in the sport of boxing.